We love having this man on the program from CBS and Turner, and also calls Brooklyn Nets games locally in the metropolitan area. My friend Ian Eagle. How are you, Ian Eagle? How are you?
Hey, what's up, Rich? How we doing?
How are you doing? How are you?
I'm doing well. This has been the best play-in tournament ever.
Well, I mean, last night was the greatest game in play-in tournament history, don't you think? That was great.
It was. We got to witness it. Greatest half. Definitely the greatest half.
I agree. I agree. So the whole thing is, like, even with the play-in game, have you called a play-in game for the NCAA tournament yet, or you have not?
Have I done the first four? Yes.
Oh,
done it 3 times.
My bad.
Yes.
My bad.
Yes.
Presented by
Wrong
whatever
moniker.
Okay.
They don't like playing.
No, but does that count? Does that count as a tournament game though? Doesn't it count as an actual?
It does. Yes.
So
it does. Stats count. It counts as a win.
Right.
100%. They made sure to categorize it as a NCAA tournament game.
Right. So what is last night? Last night was just
nothing.
Well, thanks for coming on, Ian. I appreciate it.
Nothing. Like, truly, it's bizarre. Any of the numbers that you saw last night and the night before, it didn't happen. They don't go anywhere. They don't go on your permanent record. They don't go into basketballreference.com. They don't go into the NBA handbook. The NBA doesn't even have a handbook. It's all online. None of it counts. You're right.
By the way, I don't know if my guys who aren't from the New York metropolitan area realize when your reference to permanent record is a grade school reference, correct, Ian? Right? Am I correct?
It is.
So you me.
They would toss that in front of you.
They
like if
threatened
you were ever leaning towards doing something bad, this is going to go on your permanent record.
That's what they were. Yep. We grew up basically in the same world, Ian. I got the same second grade, third grade teachers in PS 54 at Staten Island, New York. If you do this, it'll go on your permanent record. And I always wondered, where are those records being kept? Now we know with the State Farm play-in tournament record books. That's where they are. My unsatisfactory in language arts from 1976 is sitting next to Jason Tatum's 50-point game from the other night. That's what you're saying to me.
You are so right. You're so right. Mrs. Barry, my fifth grade teacher, I don't even want to tell you what was being written up at PS 101. It wasn't pretty. And I was scared that would come back to haunt me. Like on my wedding day, somebody would go, "No, stop. We have his permanent record. This is not going to happen."
I hate to tell you what Sean McManus may have on you right now based on new PS 101. I feel the same way. It's so funny. Ian Eagle here on the Rich Eisen Show. And then, the Brooklyn Nets. Let's dive into that one right now because no matter what we saw last night, and we saw a great game last night, and no matter what may happen in the coming days, there's the sense from the NBA fan writ large that if Kyrie and Harden and Durant are healthy, this thing is all just rearranging deck chairs. What is the sense from the Nets coming into this playoff series now against the Celtics? What do you have for me on that, Ian?
I think the Nets are really comfortable with where they are from a health point of view, from a chemistry point of view. The one question that keeps popping up, and rightfully so, for people that want to find holes in this theory that the Nets can't win a championship, would be the lack of playing time for the three together. But that's it. That's really the only thing that you could point towards. And these are three elite talents. I don't think it's going to be an issue with them developing a strong dynamic on the court, chemistry, working through some things potentially in this first round. They're not viewing it as a problem. I think there's been a little bit of a buildup from some within the NBA that the Nets have taken on this role as a villain, which is fine. I think that's actually a good thing. It's a good thing for the storylines, for the narratives, to create interest. And maybe there is some truth to it because there's some people that don't like the way the Nets were built or a super team, how that's formed. The reality is anyone that's been around the Nets organization knows this didn't happen overnight. This took years. There was a very big culture shift, and Sean Marks made this a desirable place to come to. You don't snap your fingers and just get great players. There's a lot that goes into it. How this all plays out is a big part of the intrigue in the NBA playoffs. Can this group come together, and can they do it during the most important point of the season? They're going to be judged on what they do in the postseason. They had the best winning percentage in franchise history. It doesn't matter. Nobody will remember that. They will be judged by their playoff results, and they know it.
What has Steve Nash's job been like this year from your front row seat, that where Kyrie kind of went on walkabout a couple times, and we all know about Durant and his injuries as he was gone, and then Harden gets hurt after a late arrival. Blake Griffin comes in. I mean, this is a first-year head coach, despite his greatness as a player. What has that been like from your perspective?
Yeah, I think it's probably gone under the radar a little bit, Rich, that he walked into a situation that had very high expectations, almost a championship or bust mentality, and he kept this thing afloat. They've won a bunch of games without Kevin Durant. They've won a bunch of games without James Harden. They've won a bunch of games without Kyrie Irving. They problem solved. They figured some things out. They willed themselves to the finish line in a few games where they didn't have the talent that they expected to have on the floor. And I think that's going to serve them well once they hit the postseason, that it wasn't all about the big three. The others carried their own weight. The season that Jeff Green put together, and Joe Harris, and the contributions of Bruce Brown, and Landry Shamet, and Blake Griffin later on when he joined the squad, and Nicholas Claxton, who was a revelation down the stretch. So all of that is something I would put in the larger equation. What I would say about Steve is he just had the perfect temperament. He's handled everything with incredible balance. He's never gotten too out of sorts. He's never gotten too low. He's never actually gotten too high and celebrating the wins. And I think that's going to serve him well now going into uncharted territory for him. He's never been through this, never been a head coach, certainly has never faced a playoff series where every decision could play a role in whether you win a game or win a series. And you'll be held to a certain level of scrutiny based on those decisions that you make in game. He's well aware of it. He's really got the right state of mind to do this job, and he's really turned out to be the perfect person to handle big personalities, and his ability to relate to the superstar and then the 10th, 11th, 12th man. Steve was not a surefire superstar. He had to work really hard to become the player that he became. Not saying that other guys don't work really hard, but he had to overcome a lot of obstacles along the way, people that didn't think he could be at this level. And I think that's allowed him to relate and connect with everybody on the roster.
You know, and just in terms of, getting through a gauntlet, the Eastern Conference is no easy path, obviously. We're assuming they'll get past the Celtics quite simply. And then, after that, it'll be either the defending conference champs in the Heat or the Bucks, and then eventually the Sixers. That said, and then the Western Conference is a crucible in its own self. But,
yeah.
I mean, Lakers-Nets, let's be honest here, that's what would be the biggest headlines and the biggest storylines, certainly from Nash having even a connection with the Lakers and Durant and Harden.
Sure.
My gosh, and Kyrie and LeBron and Anthony Davis. LeBron created the super teams in Miami, and then Kyrie and LeBron. I mean, and then Anthony Davis. That would be off the charts, Ian. That would be amazing. Simply.
I think, Rich, what's really blown me away about this whole season for the Nets is how much they've resonated nationally. And I knew that there would be a lot more attention. And I was doing the games when they went to back-to-back finals, and Jason Kidd was a Messiah-like figure when he got to New Jersey. He was the first one that didn't care about the past, didn't care that they were always looked at as an afterthought or the younger brother in New York, New Jersey basketball. He just went about his business and won a whole bunch of games. But they never quite hit on a national scale. And the intrigue, the chatter, the conversation day in and day out, it's really amazed me how much the Nets have registered on that level. So everything you just said is spot on. I do think people want to see it. There's a lot that has to be done before we get to that point, and I think part of the real intrigue of the NBA playoffs this year compared to previous years is that we don't know who's going to emerge. There were years where we had a pretty good inkling of who would be the team, and now based on this very strange regular season, you can't take all of your old tricks of looking at the stats or looking at the trends or just looking at home court advantage and say that it's going to translate in this playoffs. We just don't know. This is such a different vibe than previous years in the NBA playoffs. Even just home court advantage, which you fought for so hard in previous years. I don't know if the home records really match up to what they used to match up to once you hit the postseason. I just don't know this year based on the health and safety protocols and how many fans are allowed in certain arenas. Travel is different. Everything is just different. So with that said, I think there's a lot of anticipation once this thing really gets going in earnest.
Ian Eagle here on the Rich Eisen Show. Even though things are different, there are some that stay the same, and that's how I'm going to end our conversation here by turning to you and trying to, ask you for your advice and also delve into your basketball knowledge and also parenting as well. You didn't expect this, and I'm throwing you a curve here. But last night, my 12-year-old son Xander, sitting next to me, he asks me this question. I even put it on Twitter, so I'm wondering if you can help me. What I say to my son, he said, "Dad, why do they always call fouls just because LeBron wants it?" And I'm wondering if you how do I answer as a father who needs to tell him about the way the world works and understand how fraught with danger that might be, giving him a straight answer, and also just basketball knowledge as well. How do I answer that question of my son Xander, Ian Eagle?
Yeah, what a seminal moment. That hits you, doesn't it? It hits you in places as a father.
It does. Yep, it's like a sports
movie. Where you're the one that's supposed to provide all the answers in life. You're the one that he's supposed to turn to forever.
Yes.
Advice, feedback, tips. Mm-hmm. And you were, I assume, speechless?
Yes, at the moment. And it was interesting because that was the moment where LeBron took a charge, but Steve Kerr challenged it, come back from the commercial break, and it's a block. And that's when he asked me that question, like, how come they call fouls just because LeBron wants it? And I didn't know really how to answer such a question that is at parts astute and also disturbing, so that's why I'm wondering.
Did you consider Googling it?
I know that's a good go-to for you. I did not. Chris, could you Google that question, see what the results come up? Google it.
Yeah, let me know.
Yeah, I know. Okay. Because
that would probably be my first step. My second step would probably be a much more in-depth conversation about how life isn't fair.
Yes.
And you just need to know this at a young age. There are going to be moments and experiences that pop up that there is no reasonable explanation.
Correct.
But that's okay.
Right. And
you've got to be okay with that.
Right. And that there are powerful people in the world who have sway over individuals that might make a ruling that doesn't appear to be appropriate at the time. But there's such a thing as influence, and there's such a thing as a block and a charge and things like that.
Wait. Hold on, let me write. These are good for my son. I need to write this down.
What is that Google research?
How-to guide on how to talk to your kids.
Okay.
This is great.
Well, I will say there are several articles. Let's see. Here's one from 2019. LeBron James is the king of all calls. 2018,
I would recite that.
LeBron wants all the calls. Here's one from 2013. LeBron James is rarely called for fouls.
Ooh, I remember that one.
Now he's going to be totally confused. Now he's going to be totally. Now he's going to be.
From last year,
a conspiracy theory mission on the internet.
Oh my!
Yeah, from last year, Lakers manipulate refs. There's all kinds of
wow.
stuff.
Oh yeah.
See now, it's a slippery slope.
Yeah.
The internet knows all.
See, I love it, Ian. I knew you'd have the answer. Again, Google it is a great response.
Pretty much.
Oh my gosh! Thanks for the call, Ian. I appreciate it.
Hey,
when's your first? When's the first game? Is it Sunday for you? When is it?
First game is Saturday. That's
Okay.
a nationally televised game. So we're doing game 2, game 3, and game 4. That's Tuesday, Friday, Sunday. On Yes.
Okay, on Yes. Very good.
On Yes.
Okay, yeah. Marv, as we know, is retiring as well. Have you looked at? Well, I just don't want to say goodbye. This is like a Jewish goodbye right now. Did you look at the NFL schedule? Have you gotten yours yet? When does CBS tell you when you and?
I did. I took a look.
Charles Davis.
I realized that that was a very slippery slope to go down. I don't want to start booking flights to imaginary assignments that I'm going to get. And I started doing that. I'm like, oh yeah, and then ultimately you get disappointed. I backed off.
It goes on your permanent record, Ian. Don't do it.
It goes on my permanent record that I booked a flight to Buffalo.
Yes,
and I didn't get the Buffalo assignment.
By the way, I think that's what I think you're going to get Steelers at Bills. I think that's you and Charles Davis week 1. That's what that looks like to me. Yes, sir. I think that is for sure. I think you're definitely getting that. And then you got this week 2 is Patriots at Jets and also Cowboys at Chargers. I like it.
You're bringing me right back in.
Yeah, that's right.
Bringing me back in.
I know. And you got Nets and Celtics game 2 coming up. So there's lots going on. Ian, thank you for the call. Always appreciate it.
All right, guys. Great talking to you.
Be good, brother.
There it is. Ian Eagle, everybody. You're on the Rich Eisen Show. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.